Hello and welcome to the Tangle of the Day. My name is Amy Lilien-Harper and I am one of the children's librarians at the Wilton Library, and I am also a certified Zentangle teacher, a CZT, and I'm going to be teaching you a tangle today. Before we get started, I just want to go over our supplies and a few things about Zentangle itself. So I'm going to be working on a tile. This is a standard size tile. I'm going to be working on this little tile. You can see it's about 1/4 the size of a standard size tile. This is known as a bijou tile. I'm working on this nice small tile because we're just doing one tangle and I want to keep the video nice and short. I'm going to be using this pen. This is a Micron 01. You can see it has a very sharp, fine point, but any pen that's got a fine point, that's an ink pen as opposed to a ballpoint, should work just fine for you. I also have this pencil, the Zentangle pencil. You can see it's a very small pencil, and you'll see the reason for that in a few minutes, but any soft lead pencil will do. And then I have something called a tortillon. It's a blending tool. You can see the tip of mine is black because I've used it before, but if you don't have one of these, you can use a Q-tip or a rolled up piece of paper or the tip of your finger. Any of those will work. So, the Zentangle process has a number of steps. The first one is gratitude and appreciation, and I always encourage my students to take a few deep breaths and get themselves in a good headspace before they get started. I welcome you to pause the video and do that at this time if you'd like. And then we begin with our process. So the first thing we do when we begin our tangling is to create our 4 corner dots. Now this is a very, very small tile, so I'm going to put my dots quite close to the corners. If I was working on a standard size tile, I might give myself a little more space. Now everything we do with our pencil is done very lightly because the pencil lines are really just a guide. They are not there to constrain us. They're just to give us a little bit of framework and a little bit of support. So you can see I created my 4 corner dots, and now I'm connecting them into a border, which is our next step. And you can see I drew very lightly, and you can see that my square is not perfect, and that's fine. We do not require perfection. This is done by people. It's all hand done, and so you're not going to get it perfect. So don't worry about that. I'm going to put aside my pencil, and we are now going to go straight to our pen. Now, normally we would next draw a string, which is a way to divide up our space. But because I'm working on such a tiny little tile and I'm only doing one tangle, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to skip that step. So the tangle we're going to do today is called Rain. It's really kind of a fun one, and I think I'm going to do 2 or 3 of them right here. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to draw a line that starts right in our corner to maximize my space. And you can see I curved it a little bit. These can be straight or curved, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to just do a series of zigzags that cross over the median of this line, just like that. And that's it. And now I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to color in these spaces that I just created. So I'm just going to color those in black. And they're pretty small, so it doesn't take too long to color in a lot. And you'll notice as I'm doing this right now that I rotate my tile as I work. These tiles are purposefully made small, which allows you the ability to do that. So you can keep your pen in whatever's the most comfortable position for you, and you don't have to try to bend your hand out into funny positions. It also is wonderful for consistency if you're doing a series of strokes that are similar. These are not so much true, but depending on the tangle you're doing, you might find that you're doing a series of lines or a series of curves and you want them to look similar. And so for consistency's sake, instead of moving your hand, you move your tile. So once you have colored in all of your little triangles or 3-sided shapes here, which will take me just another couple of seconds, and I'm just coloring them in real quickly. I can always go back and do a little more coloring if I want to, but I want to do this pretty quickly for your purposes. So once you complete that process, all you do is you do what we call aura-ing. And drawing an aura is just basically drawing a line that follows the line you did before, that's sort of parallel to it, and you try to keep it the same distance. So what do I mean by that? Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw an aura, and you're going to see now I am going to be turning my tile a lot because, again, I want to keep my hand in a comfortable position rather than trying to bend it. And because there's a lot of the time when we tangle, we try to keep our pen touching the paper as much as possible, but with this particular one, because we're doing all these angles, you really do kind of need to move your tile around, which means you obviously have to lift up your pen. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And you can see I'm trying to keep my aura kind of equidistant. And I'm now doing it without lifting up my pen as another way to do it. And you can see those didn't come out quite as consistent, but they still did come out good. And I'm just going to connect that. And that is rain. That's it. There's one rain. So I'm going to draw a few more because obviously this tile looks pretty empty at the moment. So I think I'm going to draw one. I'm going to draw one more sort of right here, like that. And I'm going to make this one go like this. And it doesn't matter what direction they go. You just want to, and you can see I made these a little bit funky shape. They're not the same shape. It doesn't matter. There's no requirement for any kind of consistency as far as your little triangles go. It's just sort of what fits into your space. So if my space was crowded and I wanted to make some of them smaller than others, or in this case, I wanted to use up my line, I could have made this one really big and ended, but instead I did two smaller ones. It really doesn't make a difference. It's whatever makes you happy. And you can see this one was more, I did a big one at the end. This one I did two small ones. But if I had had, say, maybe a bunch of other tangles in here, I might have needed to squeeze this spot in which case I might very well have gone ahead and done them, made them smaller or bigger or flatter, whatever. And now, once again, I'm going to do that aura process. So here I go. It does take a bit of concentration. This is kind of a fun tangle to do. It's got a lot of what we call drama with all that dark colored in, and it definitely is very striking. It tends to kind of take over the foreground a bit, so it tends to become kind of a focal point, which can be fun or can be not as good, just depends. All right, I'm going to do another one that goes right through these two, or through one of them, I think, actually. I think I'm going to do it, I think I'm going to do it just like this. So I'm going to draw another line because I want to get I want to show you how this works. Okay, so I drew right behind, and you can see that when I got to this one, I lifted up my pen and I continued as if the line is continuing behind. We call that drawing behind. I did that on both of them. Obviously, drawing a single line behind is not that hard. Now I'm going to actually make this rain go completely behind these other two. So we don't always do this, but I wanted to show you the technique. So then this one goes here. So I'm imagining that this would go down like this, and then the next one would maybe come up here, and then one like this, and then like that, up, and that one goes back and disappears. And I imagine this one would probably continue and come up probably around there. And then I'm actually going to draw that line out a little more to make that work. And because rain has this sort of dark drama, but then it gets auraed, you are able to put stuff all around it, and it retains it, it contains its space. It's still very clearly visible no matter what you put around it because of that aura around the dark, which is pretty cool. I usually make my rains go more like the same direction. I don't usually cross them opposite direction like this. I usually do them kind of more like, you know, a bunch of sheaves or something. But I wanted you to see how it worked. If you had already done an element on your tile and you wanted to add rain, but you wanted it to go behind, I wanted to show you how that would work, how you would create that, which is why I did it like this. So, okay, so those are colored in, and once again I'm going to do my aura, and once again I'm going to be drawing behind, so you can see right there I'm going to go behind, and then I'm going to come back out over here. This one's got a lot of little jig-jags, so it makes it even more challenging to aura it. And now I'm going to come back going the other direction. And you can see how they kind of really look like they're layered and are really standing out from each other because of that, the dark, the black of the ink, and then the white of the aura. All right, I think we're going to do one more just because now it looks kind of odd to me. So I'm going to put one more going this way and bring it right through like that. And I think I'm going to do these bigger. So I'll do these kind of, okay. And then, oh, that one, we're going to pretend that one goes right behind there and come out like that. So you see I did these a little flatter, less sticking out. And we just color those in. Coloring in is one of those things that can be fun or it can be tedious. But I encourage you when you are coloring in to just enjoy the process. And I do sometimes try to sort of color around the inside of those lines first and then color the center so you keep the integrity of the line. If I was doing this as a regular tile, I would probably go back in and darken any spots I missed, but I don't want to hold things up too much, so I'm doing it kind of quickly. And you can see that I try to make my aura be consistent, but I don't always succeed, and that's okay. The thing about Zentangle is that there's a no mistakes philosophy. You're working directly on your paper with ink most of the time, except when you're shading and drawing your strings. So you have to kind of make friends with the fact that sometimes things are going to come out a little differently than you may have intended, but that's okay. That's the way life is, and we embrace that in Zentangle. Now I could put some more in, but I think that's enough to give you a sense of what we're trying to do. So I'm going to put my pen aside and I'm going to move on to shading. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to find my first ones. Now you can tell these were my first two because they were over top. So I'm going to shade them first. So I'm going to take my pencil and you can see I'm holding it kind of an angle and right tucked into my hand. That's the advantage of having it be so small. And I'm just going to lay down some graphite right around the outside of that aura. I tend to be a little heavy-handed, and you can see here I'm going right over top of that other stuff I did because this is going to be the thing that's going to stick out the most in the foreground. Our last two that we did are going to be disappearing back into the background. And if you were doing this following along and decided you want to put yours in a different spot, or if your tile came out with different kind of space, that's totally fine. Anyway, I am a little heavy-handed with my lead, so you're going to see I'm going to have a lot. I got a little heavy over there. But what's going to happen now is it's going to make that, and I'm just taking my tortillon and I am just using the side of it. It's really important you use the side of your tortillon because otherwise your tortillon's tip is just going to collapse right down on you. They don't last very long even if you use them at an angle, but if you use them straight on, they just squish instantly. And I'm just sort of drawing the lead out just a little bit just softening it up. So now I'm gonna go ahead and shade my remaining two. And as I started to say before, I am a little heavy-handed with my shading. When I first started shading, my instructor told me, you can never take it away because we don't have an eraser, you may have noticed. You can always add, you can't take away. And so I was very nervous with my use of shading. And you definitely don't want your whole tile to come out gray. However, I have found that a little bit of drama with your shading can really make things stand out. So now I'm going to go ahead and shade my remaining two. This is really pretty much one of the easiest tangles to shade because it's kind of self-explanatory how you shade it. You just outline it. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through. I'm going to try to use a little bit more. This pencil is getting a little blunt, so that's part of why my shading became so heavy-handed. So let's try to use a little more of the point. We do use the side, but you don't want to use too much of the side because then you end up with a lot of black, a lot of gray. So now you can see how those top ones look rather like they're on top of these other ones that I'm doing. And I just have this last one. That was the last one I did. You can tell because it goes underneath two of the other ones. And you noticed I didn't put anything there because there's already so much graphite there that it doesn't need any more. But this little corner could use a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead. And some people like to lay down all their graphite and then go back in with their tortillon and do the shading. Other people like to shade one element at a time. It's really up to you. There are very few rules in Zentangle. So there we go. There's my rain. And once you have completed your tangling, we like to take our tangle and look at it from a distance. You've been looking at it really closely, so you want to pull it out, look at it at a distance, see what direction it goes. Which way do you like it? Do you like it like this? Do you like it like that? I kind of like mine like this. So I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to go ahead and initial it. The front of our tiles, we just put our initials. We don't put a big, huge signature. We put what's called our chops. So you can see I stuck a little stylized version of my initials. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to sign my name. And I'm going to date it. I always encourage everybody to date everything they do. And today is actually the 13th. And I am going to write, this is called rain. I have no idea why it's called rain. But it's called rain, so it's called rain. So I signed the back, and then I'm going to flip it back over and see that that is not right side up for me anymore. And I'm going to appreciate my lovely tile. So there you go. That is how you do rain, and I hope you enjoyed this tangle, and I hope you'll come back and visit us again soon. Have a great day.